Hey Team SISD, how you doing? Anthony Pacheco here. So as you recall from the last lessons, we've been going up against the swing rhythms as well as like our jazz rap pattern and all that. Today we're going to kind of switch it all up. We're going to do a little bit of some Brazilian rhythms. There are some essential important grooves that you should know as a drum set player. So we're going to go ahead and talk about two of them today. We're going to talk about the Bossa Nova and the Samba. And again, like I mentioned, these come from Brazil, and they're very fun to play with, and they're very common as a ballad or in a softer environment for a song or anything. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and play. We're gonna start off with the Bossa Nova. I'll go ahead and play that, then we'll break it down. Cool. Here we go. As you notice, maybe the most recognizable part of it is hearing the feet pattern. And with the feet pattern, you have this heartbeat rhythm kind of going through it. So it's 1, 1. And with that being said, if you were to count it, you would have 1, 2, ready, up. So again, your downbeat would start with the bass drum on 1, 1, 2, and then you have and 3, 4. So 1, 2, and 3, 4. And basically kind of like the same way as a jazz pattern, jazz beat would go, is your hi-hats are 2 and 4. So it kind of works out that way. So you have, because then you have your bass player going boom, 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 boo doo, boom, boom. Cool. So that's the first thing to make sure you know. Then the next thing, with the Bossa Nova pattern, it's very common to have some kind of 8-note pattern going in. So it's like this. And usually it's played with like a shaker or some kind of articulate instrument that has a nice articulate sound. So it's just straight 8 notes playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and through your whole time. So I usually do it on the right cymbal, but you can also put it on the hi-hat as well. So here we go. I'll break it down. 1, 2, 3, up. So that's what you have for the right hand and the feet. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and let you try it. Go ahead and get your right hand with your bass drum and hi-hat. Pause the video, and then when you're ready, we'll get back into the next section and talk about the cross-stick pattern. So as we discussed, we have an 8-note pattern on the right hand, hi-hat 2 and 4 with your bass drum pattern doing the heartbeat, 1, 4, right? So now we're going to go ahead and talk about the cross-stick, and I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then we'll break it down. 1, 2, ready, up. So the Bossa Nova pattern, it's a little bit different than your regular clave, your 3/2 clave, and we'll be talking about those in another video, getting into claves and stuff. But for now, we're going to talk about the Bossa Nova clave. And with that being said, the Bossa Nova clave is sounding like this. 1, 2, 3, up. So what you have on your counts, it's a 2-measure thing. So you have this 1, 2, and 3, 4, right? So you have beat 1, and then the end of 2, and then beat 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then your second measure, you have 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have the downbeat of 2 as well as the upbeat of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you put that together, it sounds like this. And, there's many ways that you can play the Bossa Clave pattern. There's different ways you can play it, but this is just the most common way that it's played as a basic rhythm. If you ever get a sheet of music or a chart that has Bossa Nova, you're most likely going to play. Cool. So again, the crossstick comes in on 1, and then it comes in on the and of 2, right? And then beat 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have downbeat of 2 and 3 and on the next measure. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this whole thing again, and then I want you to pause the video and you go ahead and give it a try. Here we go. Cool, so I hope you're able to check out the Bossa Nova. We're going to go ahead and go into the Samba now. So the Samba is pretty much the Bossa Nova, but at a faster tempo. There are a couple of changes though, but the thing that does stay the same is the bass drum and the hi-hat. You're still going to have this. Now the only thing that changes really is your cross stick and your ride. So instead of doing this, playing 8 notes, you're going to have more of a 8 note 16th, an 8 note and 2/16 rhythm here. So you have. So with that being said, the samba could be felt in many different ways. So a lot of people like to fill it in 2, which is pretty common. So you have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Or you can also count it in cut time, which is in 4. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4. But that seems to be a little bit harder because you don't want to be thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 every time. So try to get the fill in 2 more than the 4. But if you have to do it in 4, that's fine. I mean, that's no big deal. It's just a preference of mine. So let's go ahead and break it down again. So if we're in 2, we have this pattern. I'll play right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So you have your 8th note, 2/16 notes, right? 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So you're playing that on the right cymbal here. And then your bass drum pattern and your hi-hat is still the same, so you have this. I'll play it together. 1, 2, ready, on. So before we begin to the crossstick, go ahead and try that with the samba. This is a samba pattern now. Get that right hand used to the feet. And then we'll talk about the cross. So now we're going to talk about the cross stick. And the cross stick is kind of similar to the bossa pattern, just maybe a little bit different than the samba. So now I'm going to go ahead and play and then I'll break it down. So, with that being said, this is our cross-stick pattern for samba. So, I know I talked about filling this in 2, and we like to do that, but, for beginners or anybody, I like to use the cut time of 4 to help break down the cross stick, only because it's a little bit easier rather than trying to think in 2. But in the whole groove itself, you want to fill it in 2. So again, like I said, right? But for the cross stick part, I like to break it down in 4. But just remember, we're still filling it in 2. Okay? So we're gonna break this down. So again, the crossstick pattern for the samba. So you have this. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and, right? And then after that, you just have 3 4s. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So when you mess around with that, you know, there's many ways. Again, like I said, in the bossa nova, you can alternate and change the pattern, but that's the most common pattern for a samba. So when we put it all together, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's the difference and the different types of grooves between the bossa and the samba. They might sound alike, but they can be totally different. A bossa nova is a lot more laid back than the samba. Definitely, if you type in bossa nova in your YouTube, check out any bossa nova track and you'll hear how relaxed and laid back it is. But then when you type in samba, you'll hear how upbeat and how exciting it can be. So those are the differences, and those are the 2 different groups that you should know as a drum set player. We'll go into detail about some more Latin music and more Latin genres later in another video. But hope you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for more. I'll see you then.